Check out the Comic Outlaw on YouTube. Look us up, give us a like, subscribe. Oh yeah, and I'm Jack Slater, and we're going to be bringing you X-Men. What if the X-Men had stayed in Asgard? Yes, y'all, it's X-Men month, and we're bringing you another story from the What If series. One of my favorite ones, by the way. I love the way Storm looks waging that hammer. It's kind of going to town and everything. Now, this is a point where Loki kind of lured the X-Men in. He turned Thor into a frog. Loki was basically trying to bring Ragnarok, doing what Loki does. And what happens is the X-Men are presented with a choice, since their world has a lot of prejudice, to stay in Asgard and live. Now, Loki's big plan, is to carry favor with the gods that lie in shadow, the gods of Ragnarok, the gods that absorb these gods when they die. It's a whole complicated story. But anyways, the X-Men all vote on who's going to stay and who's going to leave, because there's certain advantages here. Rogue can actually touch people. Certain people will have a life. Nightcrawler wants to be part of this because it's swords and swashbuckling adventures, and that's basically him all over. Magic wants to stay and study the arts. So everyone just kind of has a moment where they vote, they decide, and some of them leave. Loki sends the other X-Men that want to go home back. And this team of X-Men is actually pretty fascinating, because it's a combination of the New Mutants and sort of X-Factor and X-Men. So that's pretty cool. But the X-Men that stay, they find new lives, love, marry, adventures. Cypher, for example, becomes a scholar. Wolfbane marries the Wolf Prince in one of the realms. It's a very interesting life for them. Rogue, of course, falls in love with one of the Warriors 3. Nightcrawler's out there doing his thing as a swashbuckling hero, what he's always wanted to do, magic's learning the arts. And everyone seems to be content and happy where they are, except for Storm. Storm is carrying the burden of the hammer, being the protector of this world. And interesting enough, Thor is kind of a frog. What can I say? It's Loki, y'all. But anyways, they come up with a plan. Well, Helena kind of comes up with a plan to end up taking her soul and bringing her into the realm of death, as well as the rest of Asgard. But in the middle of this tournament, Storm flies off, for she is needed, and as they call the other warriors of Asgard together, as well as the members of the X-Men that are actually with Asgard, one of the Warriors 3 takes off with a little girl and able to protect her. Yeah, it's just a funny little moment there. And as I said before, Storm is a little surprised. She sees a creature dressed up like Thor, holding a hammer, but he's a frog. So she doesn't know that it's really Thor, because Thor's been away. It's a whole long story. But they start to clash and fight, and they're sort of equally matched, but Thor has more experience. So he ends up taking her out. But it also opens a portal for death. Helena is here. And Helena starts to bring basically hell into this world, and she wants to collect Storm's soul. Sunspot tries to stop this, and she just obliterates him and turns him into dust. For she is the goddess of death. And as the Warriors 3, as she set out, Boulder finds this engine and destroys it, and Thor becomes Thor again. And the curse is worn off, and he is restored to his rightful, godliness. Now, this is the point where Helena's army of the undead fights the Asgardians. It turns into a big old fight. And in true Asgard fashion, everybody jumps in the fray. Representatives from the 9 realms, the mutants, of course the Warriors 3, Valkyrie, they all get into this rumble, and it's great. Valkyrie takes a shot at Helena, and Helena just loses her temper and just wants to claim her life as well as anyone else's. Now as Thor jumps into the fray, Loki goes off and tries to basically weasel his way out of it, but Helena spotted him. And yes, she wants to take his head too. For Loki is a trickster god, and he has tricked her again. And Thor, of course, Cannonball, all the Asgardians, of course, Cannonball's with the dwarves. Like everybody from the Nine Realms is jumping in this. They know that if Helena gets out, she is going to destroy everything and everyone. Now, this sorceress from another world is kind of having a conflict with, I do believe magic, but her husband shows up, pops out of nowhere. I think his name is Boulder. Anyways, it kind of calms her down. The situation opens up again. Magic's able to be free. I love how Wolfsbane, the Wolf Prince, actually attacks. And they kind of jump into. Now, Helena is after Storm's soul. But Storm just strikes down using her powers. And with this fight isn't without casualties. The Dwarf King is killed, as well as Wolfsbane's beloved. So she is the ruler of a kingdom without her husband. And Thor, of course, is getting into the fray. Everyone is fighting. You gotta love this. But the strongest people, and this is Thor, Storm, basically the most powerful Asgardians get together and they use all of their power in one big concentrated blast to kill Helena, to destroy her, to vaporize her, where even the goddess of death can die. For nothing lasts forever. Everything falls. Everything dies. Now as the fight basically stops, all the evil undead just basically get destroyed or go back to where they were. This sets up another moment where it comes to see who will rule during the great Odin sleep. And Thor chooses Storm, and Storm becomes the ruler of Asgard. For Thor wants to go off, live in Midgard, do what he's been doing. So he decides to set Storm up as the ruler. And Storm becomes a wise ruler. Thor goes back to the Avengers. Rogue is actually pregnant. She's going to give birth. Nightcrawler joins the Warriors 3, which is just freaking awesome. But there is something Loki has in his own way. His plans have been fulfilled, even though all these moments of joy, all these little moments, even Wolfbane with her puppies, Loki has found a way to the gods in shadow. He has found their favor, and Ragnarok has started. As he laughs insane, will they be able to stop him as that black hole opens up? And as the end is near, will they be able to prevent it? Well, that's another story for another time, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Laters.